Yehovah Hashem Yahushai. Those honors to the apostles of Great Millstone. And Shalom to the elect, pushing the truth of Yehovah Hashem Yahushai. Alright, this is chapter 2 of Woe to the Bloody City. And this is dealing with the genocide or massacre of California tribes. Alright? Because a lot of times you talk about genocide in America, or massacres, you know, you go to Wounded Knee, which that was chapter 1, or you go to Sand Creek Massacre, you know, the big ones that you hear of. But a lot of overlooked massacres was the Native Americans, the Native American tribes in California. And when you go into that, man, that's just a pure massacre. You know, that was a lot of killing there, you know, mainly due to the gold rush around the 1850s, when those crackers went up there. Alright, if you watch the series, the mini-series Into the West, they show you they had the gold rush, you know, 1848, 1850, and so on. And basically they just pushed Gad out and they started massacring tribes and doing all kinds of wickedness. Alright, so this is Leviticus 26 and 14. And it says, "But if ye shall not hearken unto me, and will not do all these commandments, and if ye shall despise my statutes, or if your soul abhor my judgments, so that ye will not do all my commandments, but that ye break my covenant," you know, and that's the main reason, that is the reason actually that the white man came here in the form of pilgrims, Puritans, conquistadors, French fur traders, you know, Indian bounty hunters. They all came in the form of a sword. Alright, and why did they come is because you abhorred the statutes of the Most High. Matter of fact, I had an e-book printed, and it tells you that the Ojibwe, they used to keep the practice of circumcision, the covenant of circumcision. But the young men, in a generation, the young men, they despised it, and they mocked it, and they laughed at it, and you know, and it went on to where they didn't circumcise their sons and this and that, so they broke the laws of the Most High. You know, and all these laws the Gadites broke, and they went off into their own traditions. You know, and today you look at it, some of those traditions, they stem back to the scriptures. Some of them are actually from the scriptures, but the majority of it, man, is going off. Like you have the Sundance of the Lakota, man, where they basically they look for a vision, but they have to scar their own skin. You know, they stick a needle through their chest, 2 needles, and they have to dance and pray to the Most High, right? Which seems righteous, but they have to break free their skin from that needle, you know, from that pin or whatever they put in, and it tears their flesh, man, which is going off. You know what I mean? So they abhor the laws of the Most High. It says, verse 16, I also will do this unto you. I will even appoint over you terror, consumption, and the burning ague that shall consume the eyes, and cause sorrow of heart. And ye shall sow your seed in vain, for your enemy shall eat it. And I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall reign over you, and ye shall flee when none pursueth you, man. And who hates you? The white man. You know? You can't tell me, oh, that's just hearsay. You know? The white man hates you. Alright? If the massacres don't prove it, the quotes behind that prove it, man. They're top politicians. Thomas Jefferson, he was all for the extermination of the Native American. George Washington, you know, the guy on the $1 bill, the guy in Mount Rushmore, he said that the only thing the Indians deserve from the white man is total ruin. You know? So they that hate you, man. And if you Native Americans, which you don't understand it to this day that the white man hates you, only a handful you do, you know, you're going to soon understand it. Alright, I'm talking to you First Nations in Canada and you Native Americans in America, man. Alright? It says, "And if ye will not yet for all this hearken unto me, then I will punish you 7 times more for your sins." You know? The Most High is going to punish you, man. That's why when you had the, what was that? The swine flu, out on the west coast, I believe in BC, British Columbia, On the reserves, what they do, they give you body bags, man. You know, they didn't give you no even vaccine, which is bullshit anyway. But they just gave you, they just threw you, they just dumped a whole bunch of body bags for you here. You know, when they die, just put them in there. All right. And then one more scripture just to start it off. All right, is Baruch 4:25. I'm gonna start at 24. It says, like as now the neighbors of Zion have seen your captivity, so shall they see shortly your salvation from our power, which shall come upon you with great glory and brightness of the everlasting. My children, suffer patiently the wrath that is come upon you from the Most High, for thine enemy hath persecuted thee, but shortly thou shalt see his destruction, and shalt tread upon his neck. My delicate ones have gone rough ways, and were taken away as a flock caught of the enemies. Be of good comfort, O my children, and cry unto the Most High. Alright, at your powwows, you're not crying to the Most High. At your powwows, man, powwows is a damn disgrace, man. All it is like it's like the Gadget version of the Saturday night nightclub, man. That's all it is. You go there, you have your fry bread, you know, you sell your little merchandise, your t-shirts, your fake jewelry, or some of you have real jewelry there. You got crackers up there, all kinds of nations watching, taking pictures, maybe even dancing in regalia. You know, it's just a bunch of madness, man. So you're not crying unto the Most High. All right, the few of you, I'm talking about 12,000 of you, will cry to the Most High. All right, and this is why these videos are being made. That's why the brothers out there are prophesying unto you, man. All right. It says, for you shall be remembered of him that brought these things upon you. For as it was your mind to go astray from the Most High, so being returned, seek him 10 times more. That's you brothers in the truth. Alright, so as we went up, you go in our history, alright, all the hell we caught, man, as a nation. Alright? As you read all those facts, and there was hell, flip that to worshiping the Most High, you know, seek him 10 times more. You know, do videos, go on the highways, man. If the Most High called you, answer. Don't stand by. This is not the time to stand by. This is the time. This is like in the Matrix. This is an exciting time we're living in, man. I think Dozer said that in the movie. You know, this is an exciting time, man. It's not no time to just get up, yeah, watch the elders, and then just be a nigga for the rest of the week, man. This is the time to put on your garment, go on the battlefield, man. Do videos, pray to the Most High. You know, teach your people, man. You know, be active, man. Be an active prophet, you know, because you got some prophets that are not active. They just spit their little verse online on comment boards or make little inside videos. You got active prophets, man. You know, like in the world, you got active bangers and you got inactive gangbangers. You know. All right. It says, for he that hath brought these plagues upon you shall bring you everlasting joy with your salvation. It says, take a good heart, O Jerusalem, for he that gave thee that name will comfort thee. Miserable are they that afflicted thee, and rejoice at thy fall. Alright, so all those Edomites, man, we're going to read about that helped in the destruction, and we're happy and glad about it. They're going to be miserable, man. Alright, that's why this martial law is here for them, the concentration camps, the plagues, Ebola, you know. Miserable are the cities which thy children served. Miserable is she that received thy sons. For as she rejoiced at thy ruin, and was glad of thy fall, so shall she be grieved for her own desolation. For I will take away the rejoicing of her great multitude, and her pride shall be turned into mourning. Like you got Toronto, great, proud, right? The Pride March. Canadian, I am Canadian, right? I'm proud, right? It says, for I will take away the rejoicing of her great multitude, and her pride shall be turned into mourning. For fire shall come upon her from the everlasting, long to endure, and she shall be inhabited of devils for a great time, which is the missiles. O Jerusalem, you Israelites, the elect, look about thee toward the east, and behold the joy that cometh unto thee from the Most High. Lo, thy sons come whom thou sentest away. They come gathered from the east to the west by the word of the Holy One, rejoicing in the glory of the Most High. Alright? So you gotta seek the Most High, man. It's not a time for games. Okay, so getting right into it. Alright, American Indian Holocaust and Survival, a population history since 1492, by Russell Thornton, page 109. It says, Ishi, the last of the Yahayana. And this tribe, the Yana, alright, because you had the Yana and the Yahai, which was the smaller of the Yana, basically. That's all Hebrew, man. Okay, I'm gonna read this, but it's all Hebrew. It says, one California Indian people massacred at this time with the Yana, a small tribe living in the Sacramento River Valley east of present-day Redding, California, who were probably first contacted by Americans in 1821. It says they had 4 subdivisions of triplets, the northern, central, and southern Yana, all of which were about the same size, and the smaller Yahai Yana. Alright? It says, the first recorded conflict between the Yana and Americans was when Captain John Fremont attacked a peaceful gathering of Indians on Bloody Island at the mouth of Battle Creek in the Sacramento River in 1846. During the next 2 decades, there was a series of massacres in which dozens of Yana were killed, culminating in the 1867 massacre at Dig Creek, when at least 45 Yana were killed and bodies lay on the ground as there were not enough Yana left to bury them. As shown in Table 5-5, Yana population was reduced from 1900 to about 100 between 1848 and 1867. In part, this happened because of white claims that the Yana were killing the settlers on Yana land. Although during this time span the deaths of fewer than 50 settlers can be contributed to them with any degree of certainty. Alright? It says one of the Yana massacres was at Three Knolls on Mill Creek at dawn on August 16, 1865, in retaliation for the killing of 3 settlers by Yahais. Writing in Ishi in Two Worlds, 1961, Theodore Kober described the attack under the leadership of 2 settlers, Hiram Good and Robert A. Anderson. Waiting only until there was light enough for his men to see where they were going or shooting, Anderson directed a continuous stream of gunfire down from above onto a sleeping village. As he had surmised, the Yahai ran downstream, making for the open ford, which brought them under Good's fire from below. The terrified Indians leaped into Mill Creek, but the rapid current was a sorry protection. They became targets there for Good's guns, and Mill Creek ran red with the blood of its people. Anderson reported that many dead Indian bodies floated down the rapid current. It says, another attack on the small Yahayana group took place in the next year, 1866, apparently in retaliation for starving Yahai having stolen food from a farmer. All of the Yahai were killed. In either 1867 or 1868, there was yet another attack by settlers on a relatively large group of Yahayana, probably in retaliation for a steer having been killed by them. In it, 33 Yahai were murdered and scalped at a cave north of Mill Creek by 4 whites led by Norman Kingsley. Kingsley, as he explained afterwards, changed guns during the slaughter, exchanging his 50 caliber Spencer rifle for a 38 caliber Smith & Wesson revolver because the rifle tore them up so bad, particularly the babies. Fucking devils, man. You know? The white man doesn't give a shit about you. Alright, next page. It says another massacre of the rapidly dwindling Yahai Indians took place in 1870. Here again for the suspected killing of cattle. At this time, there were only about 15 or 16 Yahai left. One was the young boy, now about 8 years old, who had escaped the 1865 Three Knolls massacre of his village. After the 1870 massacre, the remaining Yahai made a brief, unsuccessful attempt to make peace with those who had invaded their lands, and when they retreated into secrecy. The Yahai survived by hunting, fishing, gathering, and occasionally raiding settlers' food supplies and livestock. Their numbers soon grew smaller until only 5 survived. And that's the devil, because when you take the guys off their land, you know, all their supplements are gone. They're fishing, they're hunting, their means of survival. So they're out in the wilderness fucking eating grass or berries or whatever they can, scavengers. So, you know, they see the white man, they go at night, try to take some food to survive, and then the white man kills them even more. And that was happening all across America, man. You know, and this is Ishi, the last of the Yahai. And the story behind this man, he was an expert at, I believe, bow and arrows. And if you look up how to make a bow and arrow, some videos, they actually tell you this man is like the modern or the founder, you know, the master of bow and arrow making, and he made great arrow tips that you put on the arrow out of obsidian and different kind of minerals and rocks from his territory. And his name, when you look him up, Ishi, it was a name given to him because he was taken in the museum. You know, he came out after the massacres in around 1900, right at the turning of the century, 20th century, and he was the last of his tribe. And this was after the massacres when the white man, okay, we got the land, this and that. So he was like a gazing stock, which is in the scriptures. It said, "Thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword." So these crackers in the museum took him in to live in the museum with them, and they studied him and his people. And his name, he had a native name, but he kept secret, because a lot of guys, they kept their name secret. And he told you that he can only reveal his real name to friends, and he told you that he made no friends, so he kept his name secret. So the white man, from his language, from the Yahai language, they called him man, and to say man in Yahai is Ish or Ishi. Now, how do you say man in Hebrew? Ash or Ish, right? Like you have British. The elders went into this. Brit goes back to Barayath, which means covenant, and Ish or Ash, which means man, covenant man. Ishi is Hebrew. It just means man, but it's in their language. And then you look at Yahai, Yana, that's pure Hebrew. That's all Hebrew consonants. You know? So that's what happened with him. That's his story. All right. And I'm gonna go to page now 203, which is another group in California. The Yukai and Tolowa. Alright? It says, a small part of the tremendous Yukai population decline was due to introduce disease, starvation, slavery. Okay, you niggas talking about all Native Americans, they didn't go into slavery. Yes, they did, man. Alright, and the relocation of individuals. The Yukai suffered from these, but probably the primary reason for the massive decline between the mid-1850s and the mid-1860s was genocide. Yukai massacres by local whites have been documented over and over again. 204, it says 1979, Virginia P. Miller, perhaps the leading contemporary scholar on the Yukai, has commented, the Yukai had been victims of one of the most organized and intense genocidal campaigns in the history of the state. A most illuminating statement on the number of Yukai murdered came from Dryden Laycock, one of the first settlers in Round Valley. It says Laycock claimed that beginning in 1856, the first year whites moved into the valley, and continuing through February of 1860, parties of Round Valley settlers would frequently go out 2 or 3 times a week and kill on an average 50 or 60 Indians on a trip. These crackers, they just said, okay, this is our pastime, this is our hobby, let's just go kill natives 2 or 3 times a week. Taking the lower of Laycock's figures, even if only 2 such trips were made each week and only 50 Indians killed on each trip, then the settlers would have killed 5,200 Indians in 1 year. And Laycock claimed that settlers' raids went on for 5 years, although not necessarily at a sustained pace. You know? That's the sword. The white man is known as the sword. Alright? Page 206. It says, whenever the initial European or American contacts were made, or whatever their nature, by the 1850s, non-Indian settlements in Tolowa territory had become intensive as a result of gold mining operations, and the founding of Crescent City on the California coast. Diseases, measles, diphtheria, and cholera, and pseudo-military engagements and genocide are typically given as the reasons for the decline in Tolowa numbers. Genocide seems particularly important as it was among the Yukai. Baumhoff listed 3 instances. The first killing took place at Burnt Ranch, 3 miles south of the mouth of Smith River, at the rancheria called Yank Takut, a name perpetuated by the distinct schoolhouse name. Here a large number of Indians were caught during a ceremonial dance and ruthlessly slaughtered. The Indians say this was the first killing. Okay, so I'm gonna go into the next book called, and some of the information is gonna overlap, but this book kind of goes even deeper into the genocide. God, Greed, and Genocide, the Holocaust Through the Ages by Arthur Brink. Alright, so I'm going to hit pages in this book. So this is 151, The Destruction of the Yana and Other Indian Tribes in California. The history of the United States, after it gained its independence from Britain in 1776, is a history of white settlers displacing Indians from their own territory. Aboriginal people stood little chance of stemming the flow of settlers, behind which stood an army with some of the most advanced weaponry of the time. By orders issued to the army in 1799, white squatters were to be granted all the humanity which the circumstances will possibly permit. Hagen describes the effect of such orders. It says, for army officers in a civilian-dominated military establishment, this was sufficient warning. If Indian and white interests conflicted, the Indians was sacrificed. Moore, which is a scholar, argues that few American leaders wanted to annihilate the Indians, which is a damn lie. Yet politicians at the state and local levels adopted policies that subordinated the Indian lives to their political aspirations and to the land hunger of white settlers and ranchers. Chokin Johansson argues that, supported by the electorate, American political leaders became accomplices in the killing of Indians by failing to protect them from settlers in their territory and by deporting them to reserves and then not providing them with the necessities they required to sustain themselves. It says, furthermore, they insisted on harmful acts of commission and omission long after it became clear that their policies embodied the most unscrupulous settlers who, left unhindered by the force of law and order, went on to destroy essential Indian food supplies, to kidnap Indian women and children. This is page 156. It says, a similar fate was suffered by the Sinkyone, many of whom were killed by white settlers and the U.S. military from the 1850s to the 1870s. A survivor who witnessed the massacre of her family at Needle Rock reports that whites killed her grandfather, mother, and father. They also killed her sister, who was just an infant, cutting out her heart and throwing it into the bush. She was so scared that she hid a long time, clasping her baby sister's heart in her hands. Massacres such as this almost eradicated the Sinkyone as a distinct tribe. That's some fucking terror, man. That's why we read in Leviticus 26, the Most High shall bring terror over you, man. You know? But they don't teach you this kind of shit in school, man. All these massacres, these fucking crackers, man. This wasn't just the military. This was rancher. This is normal fucking civilians, man. Okay, normal citizens. All right, page 150. Oh, down here. Sorry. It says the destruction of native people and the treatment of Indians in California. Soon after the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, 1848, ceded the sovereignty over California, Utah, Arizona, and other southwestern territories to the United States, Americans poured in these areas, seizing land from native peoples both in the interior and along the California coast. The whites' total disregard for the natural environment made it increasingly difficult for the Indians to successfully maintain their traditional lifestyles. It said the Spaniards and Mexicans had incorporated the Indians into their colonial economic and social structures, and by the time of the American conquest of California, were beginning to treat Amerindians more humanely. Within the Anglo-American system, however, there was no place for the natives. Indian life deemed valuable, so to the Mexicans, who had institutionalized Indian labor for wealth, was considered worthless to the Americans. New labor laws kept the native people in a state of virtual slavery. Indians could be rounded up, made to work, and then turned away to starve when their labor was no longer required. It says, hey, what does that scripture say? He that made no account of his labors, right? That's the fucking white man. It says, conflict between the Indians and white settlers resulted in the so-called Indian Wars. Reporting on these wars was the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, Agent Adam Johnson, stated that the majority of tribes were kept in constant fear by the indiscriminate massacres of their people for real or imagined injuries, right? Like a lot of these stories, man. You know, a white man found dead, the guy that must have killed him. Let's go kill a whole village. Same thing was happening during the time of Jamestown, Virginia, and Massachusetts Bay. In Plymouth Rock. That's where your whole Thanksgiving story comes from, man. You know, a suspected killing of a white man, you gotta go burn fucking 3 villages down, man. You know? Many were attacked to drive them from their land. It says sometimes by regular troops as well by local militias. It says the following recounts a massacre that followed the killing of 2 whites by the Pomos. The white men had brutally exploited the Indians at Clear Lake by enslaving them, and many died as a result. In the attack, soldiers equipped with boats went across the lake in their long dugouts. The Indians said they would meet them in peace. So when the whites landed, the Indians went to welcome them, but the white man was determined to kill them. Gewili said he threw up his hands and said, "No harm." It says, "No harm me, good man." But the white man fired and shoot him in the arm. Many women and children were killed around this island. One old lady saw 2 white men coming with their guns up in the air, and on their guns hung a little girl, because they have the I forget what it's the not the battalion, but the long knives. That's why some of the natives call them long knives. The long knives are coming because on their gun they had those long knives basically that they would stab you with. So they stabbed a girl, and then they just left her hanging on the gun. They brought it to the creek and threw it in the water. 2 more men came. This time they had a little boy on the end of their guns and also threw it in the water. A little ways from her, 2 white men stabbed the woman and the baby. All the little ones were killed by being stabbed, and many of the women were also. This old lady also told about the whites who hung a man on Emerson's Island. They hung. So they lynched too. The Indian was hung and a large fire built under him, and another was tied to a tree and burned to death. Hey, hey man, for you dumbass so-called Israelites talking about the natives, the curses don't apply. You don't know history, man. I'm just gonna be like that. I'm just gonna say it like that. You don't know history. This sounds like a fucking lynching in the South, man. When they tied a Jake to a tree, burned them, you know. And you know they didn't just burn these Gadites, man. You know they fucking chopped off an ear, cut off testicles, because they did that in other massacres too. They would kill you and then they would mutilate your body, man, for souvenirs. Alright? It says Indians were also killed to eliminate what the whites considered a nuisance. J. Ross Brown, who investigated the mistreatment of natives on behalf of the national government, provides this description. Provides this description of a typical militia expedition against Humboldt Indians. During the winter of last year, a number of them, Indians, were gathered at Humboldt. The whites thought it was a favorable opportunity to get rid of them altogether, so they went into a body to the Indian camp during the night when the poor wretches were asleep, shot all the men, women, and children at the first onslaught, and cut the throats of the remainder. Very few escaped. Next morning, 60 bodies lay weltering in their blood. The old and the young, male and female, with every wound gaping a tale of the horror to the civilized world. Children climbed upon their mothers' breasts and sought nourishment from the fountains that death had drained. Girls and boys lay here and there with their throats cut from ear to ear. Men and women clinging to each other in their terror were found perforated with bullets or cut to pieces with knives.
all cruelly murdered. So you tell me the white man is not gonna catch? You tell me the white man can make it? Fucking gathering the Christ talking about, yeah, a few Edomites can make it? Man, that's why when you niggas drop dead, it's gonna be a glorious day, man. Alright? This is James 2, verse 13. It says, "For he shall have judgment without mercy that hath showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment," man. So the white man, the Most High is going to have judgment against you, because you have showed no mercy. Right? It says, he shall have judgment without mercy, man. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, please, Jesus save me. Nah, man, Most High's not going to hear that shit, man. He's going to have, hey, when we were crying for mercy, we just read the massacre. Oh, we came in peace, but the white man massacred you. Alright, so white man, prepare for fucking hell, man. And white woman and your babies, man. Alright? It says, native people lived in constant fear of such incidents, news of which often predated their direct contact with American settlers. For example, when the first white people arrived on Wailaki lands in Northern California in 1854, the Wailaki had already heard reports from trading partners and neighbors of kidnapping, raiding, and killings directed against other tribal groups. Consequently, they tried to keep out of harm's way by hiding in the mountains. Such a move exposed their land for expropriation, leaving them with little means of sustaining themselves except through stealing. As a result, many of them were slaughtered by the white settlers. Alright? The state and federal government subsidized the destruction of Indians by reimbursing private military forays for expenses incurred in such undertakings. Almost any white man could raise a volunteer company, outfit it with guns, ammunition, horses, and supplies, and be reasonably sure that the government would honor its vouchers. Right? It says, the California legislature passed acts in 1851 and 1852 authorizing the payment of over, what is that, $1,100,000. Alright, that's not $100,000, that's $1 million back in 1851 for the suppression of Indian hostilities. In 1857, the legislature issued bonds amounting to $410,000 for the same purpose. Congress eventually reimbursed the state for nearly all the bonds issued, thereby subsidizing the murder of Indians. Bancroft states that the so-called Indian Wars in California were essentially an attempt at the wholesale slaughter of native peoples. Churchill states that even after the official bounties were ended, private businessmen established their own bounties and continued paying them until a number of native tribes in the northern part of the state were entirely extinct. So look at that, man. You had on one hand the military killing you, then you had the government giving vouchers, talking about, okay, you're an upstanding citizen, gather a company of men, we're gonna reimburse you, so get guns, get ammunition, get supplies, and go out killing natives. They literally made native killing gangs, man, gangs that killed natives. And then even after the government stopped that, you had private businessmen, men that had enterprises and businesses, rich men that said, okay, I need you to go exterminate this tribe because I want its land. Right? That's what was going on. That's why, hey, California, man, got a lot of blood in its hands, man. America, period. That's why, hey, brothers, hey, California's wild, man. That's a heavy cursed place, man. Next page, 159. It says, the introduction of a reservation system did little to improve the position of native peoples. In 1854, Edward F. Beazle gathered together some 2,000 Indians to establish the Treyon Reservation on 50,000 acres of land near the southern end of the San Joaquin Valley. Other reservations were established soon after. The reservation system, however, was riddled with corruption. Beazle was dismissed for not keeping financial records, and another official, Treaty Commissioner Wozencraft, was charged with irregularities in his purchase and delivery of beef to starving Indians. These men were replaced by even more corrupt officials who used their influence to settle white families on native land, an action that drove off the Indians. Thievery and mismanagement by administrators kept the Indians in a state of destitution. Starvation was not uncommon, hastening the demise of the native population. The Hutchnum, for example, suffered such harassment from the white settlers that they became extinct while on a reservation. So see, reservations, man. Reservation is just a fucking other word for a prison camp, a prisoner of war camp. That's why today, same everything I read, same shit goes on today, man. Even worse. You have corruption, people dying on the reservation. Not just more, just not. I'm not talking about fucking regular death, man. I'm talking about suicide from alcoholism, from drug abuse, murders. You know, you got all kinds of madness going on reserves, man. All right. So Khan, that was basically it. You know. Um, so yeah, man. I'm Lord's will, Yahweh Shem Yahushai willing has a spirit on me. I'm gonna keep doing these series, whatever the Most High gives me. You know, but yeah, this is all. We're in end times, man. This is the end time. So Yahweh Shem Yahushai has us brothers doing these shows to lift the skirt of Babylon, to show you that this place, from its conception to this day, there's not been anything good for the Israelites. I'm talking about to the blacks, you so-called colored, you Afro-Americans, but you know all these names you were called. They were brought here in cargo slave ships to serve hardcore slavery. Even after slavery, you were lynched. KKK mobs arose. Lynch mobs arose. You had it worse after slavery than in slavery. Native Americans, all kinds of fucking hell was brought upon you, from bio warfare, disease warfare, to genocide, to reservations, to residential schools. You so-called Latinos, man, you Mexicans, man, you had slavery happen to you. You know, just hardcore genocide, colonialism, and all these things affect you today. It's a cause and effect operation. You know, all these things affect you. So at the end of the day, I pray how about Shem Yahushai gathers the elect, man, very soon. Because once that 144,000 brother is sealed, that's when the four winds of the earth, man, the destruction is gonna come upon. The angels are gonna release all those winds, all that destruction. So I pray to Yahweh Shem Yahushai that this word gets out and more brothers start waking up. And you Native Americans, man, you better wake the hell up, man. Because here in Canada, man, you guys are, I don't care how much I don't know more protests you guys do. You guys are dead asleep. You Aboriginals, you First Nations, man. Alright, you are dead asleep. You wake up to the fact that this fucking white man murdered you, but in your protests, in your system, your whole system's messed up because you allow terrors into your congregation. What I mean by terrors, if you're listening to this, terror is a white man that took your woman and planted his seed in you. You may go by matrilineal, but at the end of the day, in reality, you talk about nature, Mother Nature. Look at the earth, man. You have seed that populates the earth. You have the seed of the apple, the seed of the orange, the seed of the peach. It plants in the earth, the woman, and that a tree comes out, whatever the seed is, not what the woman is. Doesn't matter what terrain you're in, it might come out looking different, but the seed is what the fruit is gonna come out what the seed is, man. So you guys allow all these other nations into your congregation and your protest. You're still doing the same thing that your ancestors did. When the French came and the Jesuits came, you adopted them into your nation. You gave them your woman to have to lay with, to marry, and those children you made chiefs over you, man. And you don't even know what you did. That's who signed away your land. You know, that's who gave away your rights. You're letting that seed of the serpent, you know, in your congregation. So you have to have the understanding of the scriptures, man. The understanding of the laws of the Most High, the Creator, the Great Spirit, man. Okay, so Kal Halal Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, all praises to Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. You know, I pray Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai wakes up you tribes, man. You know, Shema Yisrael, Yahweh, Lahayinawa, Yahweh Chad. You know, you Israelites gotta wake up. Double honors to the apostles, the elders of Great Millstone for teaching me this truth. You know, and salutations to the elect of of you brothers, man. You brothers out there, the elect, whomever you may be, you know, keep pushing this word, man. We're almost out of here. You know, keep researching, keep doing videos. We gotta be a nuisance to this devil. Like it says, we're not gonna day or night, man. We're gonna prophesy this word. We're not gonna keep our silence. So we gotta be a nuisance unto this devil. He gave us the internet. Fucking use that against him. Okay. So until next time, Lord's will, I say shalom.